So, good afternoon, everyone. It's April 26th, Sunday, and here we are in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, in front of the house once again. So, summer finally arrived. We again went right from winter to summer. We didn't really have a spring. I mean, it was still cold in the 30s and 40s at night, and all of a sudden this last week, we're still getting lows in the mid 50s at night, but it's it was 90 yesterday, and I think it's going to 95 tomorrow, but it's really pleasant. There's no humidity. It's just a great time for projects. So I'm doing what I'm kind of calling my video on my COVID-19 projects, because like many people, I'm stuck here. Went from 6,000 miles a month at work to 0, and of course there were a lot of latent little projects that I've been putting off that I wanted to get done. So I just thought I would bring everyone up to date on what I've accomplished. So let's start with the clothes dryer. This clothes dryer never had a vent. I had a piece of my garage exhaust hose attached to this, and it came out the side here and ran under the garage door when I had to use it, and it was always lying in front. I always knew I'd put a vent in. So in this concrete block wall, I had to put a hole in. So what I did was I made a hole in the wall, and I put a 6-inch, 1/4-inch wall pipe in there that you can see. And that foamy stuff you see is exactly that, it's foam. The dryer only needs a 4-inch vent, and the 4-inch vent loosely with clearance fits in the 6. So I never have to climb back there with a screwdriver. I just push the the dryer vent inside of that tube, and then spray a little foam, and the foam doesn't resist. If I ever have to move the dryer, I pull it forward and I can use foam again. And I wanted it to be indestructible, because like any neighborhood, we have children, and kids sometimes are mischievous, and those flimsy dryer vents that you buy at Home Depot that are plastic or that real thin galvanized steel can be damaged easily. So I took 1/8-inch steel and I cut it and bent it with my torch after putting score lines, and I made this vent. You can't get your hand up in here to do any damage, and you'd need a hammer to really bend this metal. And over at the end of the tube, I just perforated with a 1/2-inch drill bit holes to make it like a screen, so there's no way mice or anything that could climb this wall could get in there. So I have a real solid dryer vent now. And the next thing, while I was mixing up the cement to do that project, I just thought, I've been driving over this rough spot that I jackhammered out to make it level for the garage door to close. I always had an issue, so I had a big trench here, and it was really rough. It was like going over speed bumps to get in and out of the garage. And I figured, I'm already mixing cement, so I took the bag and I mixed some gravel in, light mix, and I made a valley here. And now the valley will carry the water just like the trench would, but it's tapered so the car passes more easily. And the water goes right through that little ridge that I cut. And then I used some self-leveling compound, nothing like it. And I poured it into this low spot. And I just poured enough to where you can see where it started to crawl across or seep across my new work. And I knew that I was up to the level, so the water just flows. This canal, which is under this upper door, is where all the water comes when it rains. It rains, it comes down, it runs down this hill but it all gets caught in that canal instead of flooding the garage, and then it just runs behind the pillar, and it runs across this little valley, which is easily drivable now, and the water takes its course. And I always had an issue with these garage doors. You know, hard to get anybody over here that can do 10-foot doors, and they like to put those real light doors in like you get at Home Depot, and I didn't want that. I wanted heavy doors, and it was hard to get any heavy-duty motors, so there's a lot of strain on them. And I think it was a case of the contractor sending his son, who was inexperienced, with a bunch of the kids to do my job. And they got them in, and they've been working, but there were a lot of details that were not taken care of the way I liked. You know, because of the limited length of the cables and so forth, they had to get the curves right at the opening. And by doing that, they had to extend the rollers at the top, so the doors aren't really flush. Well, when I cut this canal, I got the door to come down a little further, which let the top go forward a little better. And then I loosened all of these mounting bolts on the tracks on both doors and those rear mounting bolts. And I slid everything forward to get the doors to almost mate with the wall now. There was a big gap. At night, you could see the light through like an 1.5 inch gap, but I adjusted everything tightly now. You know, there's a little air gap. And you can see at the top, this one doesn't sit perfectly, but it's down to the end of the cable now. I jackhammered out some of the concrete to let it fall another couple of inches. But at least now I'm more satisfied with the job than I was. So that was kind of project number 3. And yeah, the other thing, I did a little mechanical work too. My wife was driving around, and in the Explorer here, this connection to the seat belt wouldn't hold the belt. You had to stick a key in it and pop it up, and then it would hold, and once you released it, you know, it wouldn't latch. So we went to the junkyard, and for $8 bought that piece, and the other night she and I pulled the seat out and installed that new piece of seat belt. And while the seat was up, she shampooed her interior and everything. So it's just day after day, it's been a little more of this and a little more of that. I'll try not to make this too long, and I'll try not to make you extremely dizzy as I move around. But the big project, if you've been watching my previous videos, I talked about the fact that that water tank you see way up there on the roof now was always on the roof of the house. So when the water shuts down, we have 1,100 liters of storage. Well, the problem is, when that tank's full, it weighs 1.25 tons, like 2,250 pounds. If you calculate 1,100 liters, 290 gallons, 8.34 pounds per gallon, it's a lot of weight. So it has to be placed strategically on the house where you have weight-bearing walls under it, or weight-bearing roof beams. Now when it's empty, it only weighs about 90 pounds, but maybe 80. But something that big is really clumsy and hard to lift. So you can see I have 2 ladders here. I did have a third one to the right, and we had one guy come to help. So where you see the water inlet on that, and there's a water outlet on the bottom, I fished one of those Home Depot ropes through it with a slip knot, and then I tied it off to some rebar coming out of the the roof so that, you know, it wouldn't let go, and I pulled it up tight, and I had it sitting in that window opening. And we'd already measured. We knew this window openings are over 48 inches, and the tank is like 42. So even with the inlet valve, as it sat diagonally, the valve cleared in the corner. So that guy who's my age, and I'm 65, he's my age, he got on the roof and held the rope. My wife went inside, pushed the tank through the window out to me, and then I climbed on that extension ladder and got my back under it to pull it away from that ledge and give him a boost, and he was able to pull it up onto the roof. And I just spent the afternoon doing all the plumbing, putting couplings on it, and it's filling right now as I'm filming. So that was another big project. We no longer have the water tank sitting in the bedroom that we built around the tank, because I just don't like being without water. And it's not bad. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the water goes off over here from approximately 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. So, you know, we're without water for a 9-hour period. And then it's on all day, all night, all day the next day, all night until the following day. So out of every 36 hours, or actually 48 hours, the water's off for 9 hours. Yeah, and with the tank, it's no problem. I mean, we never use all of it. But if you don't have the tank and nothing's coming out of the faucet, it can be annoying. So I'm not going to climb back up. If you've been watching all the videos, you know, all the previous videos, I covered that new roof and everything that was done. The gentleman who came and helped me today is the guy who did the sealing compound on that cement. Because that cement, most of it is going to have a third floor on it. So it wasn't important that it was sealed like a roof. But temporarily it's going to be until I build the third floor. And so he concocted something out of a sealer with sand, and he rubbed it in, and it put like a plastic finish on the concrete that won't inhibit putting tile on it later. So we're happy about that. But it was nice of him to come over today and help me get that tank situated. So on it goes. I have several other things that I'd like to work on. I know I'm going to dig into the Explorer and put a front crankshaft seal or harmonic balancer seal in it, and ball joints and so forth. Stuff that I just never get around to doing. And I think it needs a new idler pulley that's making noise and a new accessory drive belt. So, and you know, the guy's coming over Tuesday. He's going to put the temporary roof over the stairwell, and he's going to start working on that doorway that goes into the stairwell from the kitchen, so we'll be able to walk upstairs, and soon enough we'll have those rooms. They won't be finished like luxury, but we will be able to have company, and people will have a place to stay. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.